Today, we are going to talk about the digestive system, more appropriately for this class, the gastrointestinal system. Gastro meaning stomach, intestinal, you can figure that out, right? Okay, so if you remember back into maybe elementary school, they also referred to it as the alimentary canal. Now, the thing is that the alimentary canal does not encompass the entire gastrointestinal system. The alimentary canal is a direct line from your mouth, input, straight through to output. Okay. But we have what are known as accessory organs that are companions to the gastrointestinal system that are going to assist in the digestive process. So let's get to it. This is the digestive system. And as I was just saying, the alimentary canal, the mouth, the pharynx, right? The pharynx, the esophagus, the stomach, small intestine, large intestine, rectum, anus, out. Okay. But when you look at the illustration, you will also see notation of the gallbladder and the pancreas. And they also participate in the digestive process. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And the pancreas does double duty, right? Because you remember we talked about the pancreas and its involvement with insulin production. Okay, so let's continue on as we go input to output. So we start with the mouth, and you know, I always think it's very interesting how, yeah, we have dentists who are specialists in caring for the teeth and the gums and basically the whole mouth oral cavity. And yet, excuse me, wait, I bought cough drops. Finally. Okay. So, and yet we tend to not really think about the dentist being part of the full healthcare team, which is a mistake because the oral cavity, as you can see, has a lot to contribute. We also have to remember that, as with other body systems, remember, everybody is all interconnected. So even though you may think about the dentist as caring for like this separate weird part of your mouth, and I know nobody likes going to the dentist. I know this. My father was a dentist. Excuse me. But the fact remains that it is an area of the mouth that is, if you pardon the pun, open to lots of foreign matter. Some of it is delicious, this foreign matter. But the fact remains that when you don't take care of your teeth, for example, and you let that gunk plaque stick up, you know, that's bacteria. And what people forget is not only is it socially unacceptable, but right there in the gums are blood vessels. So the bacteria just like right there. Okay. And we're on the super slide into the whole rest of the body. And the fact remains that it is proven that poor oral health leads to heart disease. So if going to the dentist is scary, it is, okay. You got to find somebody who you feel comfortable with. And you know, it's interesting how and I agree with this. I think lying in that dental chair, especially, you know, when they lie you back, you're so vulnerable and it's so it can be very scary. So you need to find a dentist who you like, who makes you feel comfortable, and it doesn't always hurt. But the importance is that good oral health contributes to good everywhere else health. And it is the gateway to the whole rest of your body, as you're about to review, because I know you probably already know this, right? Okay. So we go from the mouth down the pharynx. Remember the nasopharynx, the oropharynx, the pharynx, right? And then we go into the esophagus, which is the tube that leads directly into the stomach. Okay, remember we talked about the epiglottis, the little flap that sits on top of the trachea so that it closes when you're eating or drinking so that fluid or food doesn't get into your lungs, because the trachea goes to the lungs, the esophagus goes to the stomach. Okay, and the food and the drink. And when I say drink, I don't mean necessarily alcohol. I mean soda or even water, okay? Goes into the stomach, and the stomach, of course, has all these muscles and layers, and the stomach also has acids, which then basically your teeth already chewed up the food, and then the stomach is going to take the next part of mushing it up. Okay, now look at all of the terms that are used to describe the different parts of the stomach. Yeeks, that's a lot of words. Okay, but take a look at fundus on the right hand side, just below where it says body of stomach. Fundus is that curved part. And do you remember we talked about the term fundus when we talked about the kidneys? So you can see how it's important that you understand the meaning of the terms, because they refer to, some of them refer to the shape or the purpose of a particular anatomical site. Okay? All right. And on the left-hand side, you see lower esophageal sphincter. Do you remember we talked about sphincters? We talked about sphincters, which are circles, and they're almost like rubber bands, okay? They're muscles. But they work like rubber bands in the fact that they contract and expand. So they permit passage or they close off passage. You happen to have, I don't know, what's the 32 sphincters in your entire human body. Isn't that amazing? All those rubber bands. You'll notice there's another one here on the lower right-hand side, the pyloric sphincter. So the lower esophageal sphincter controls what's coming from the esophagus, whether or not it may go into or pass into the stomach. And then once the stomach is done and it continues down to the pylorus, which is the end of the stomach that attaches to the small intestine, the duodenum, you have the pyloric sphincter, And why do we need these control points? For the same reason you get them in traffic, whether it's a traffic light or a toll booth, is to control the flow. If you did not have these sphincters, you would eat something and it could just zhoosh, which, I mean, there are times when we all have that, but that should not be the norm. It's important that you understand sphincter and what its basis is, and its basis is to control traffic. Okay? And then we get into the duodenum or the duodenum. And if you ever have a question about, or a patient, they have a question about what's going on in this upper portion of the digestive system, the gastrointestinal system, the patient may be sent for an ERG, which is an esophagogastroduodenoscopy. I love saying that. It's not your fault, Rochelle. I just hope you could. I understand. I was in a Zoom meeting, a training actually, a couple of weeks ago, and I got kicked out 3 times. But we'll just cross our fingers and hope your technology holds. Okay. So as I was saying, an esophagogastroduodenoscopy, one word, it's about this long, but you can take it apart because of all your learning about your prefixes and your roots and your suffixes, and you can figure out exactly what it means. Esophagus, gastro, stomach, duodenum, duodenum, oscopy, to view. It's taking a scope with a camera down the mouth, down into the esophagus, through the stomach, and into the duodenum to see what's going on in there. It's not invasive because it uses a natural orifice. And I love saying it because, like I said, it's like a word this long and I can say it so smoothly. And yet there are words that do not come trippingly off my tongue. So welcome to medical terminology. But it's important that you are able to connect the word or the part to I'm sorry, to what it means, so that you can picture it in your head. It'll help you remember what it means or what it goes through or what it does. Okay? All right. So now we have the small intestines and the large intestines. The small intestines are all squished up. Remember, we came out of the stomach into the small intestine. The small intestine is the smooth pink in the middle. Isn't that kind of weird? It is kind of weird. That's the small intestine. And then the large intestine is your border. Okay. And they go together. The ileum, you see ileum on the left-hand side, the third term from the top, okay? Do you remember we talked about ileum and ileum? Remember when we were talking about the skeletal system, ileum with an I, I-L-I-U-M, refers to a pelvic bone, the hip bone. I-L-E-U-M refers to the end of the small intestine, where it meets up with the large intestine, right at the appendix into the cecum. Okay? I did not design this. Actually, I think the entire human body is an incredible masterpiece of mechanics. And you know who did that. Okay, so What we have here then is it goes through the small intestine, and then we connect up with the cecum. The appendix, you see, appendix is just like this little tail thing. It has no real job other than to maybe, create a need for a surgeon on occasion, because it does get blood flow, which means it can become infected. How lovely. Okay, thank you. And then we go into the cecum. And now our digestive system is coming to the last chapter, and that is the large intestine. Now, you may have heard this referred to as the colon, which it is referred to, and you'll notice that word. You'll notice that word is here on our illustration multiple times. Okay, okay, all right. The large intestine includes everything from the appendix and the cecum all the way to the anal sphincter. Okay. The colon is just the bumpy part that you see, which is the ascending colon coming up from its connection with the small intestine at the ileum. Okay. The right colonic flexure, where it takes a sharp turn, the transverse colon, and remember we talked about that word too, transverse, same as in English, it means across, and then it takes another turn, and then the descending colon leads to the sigmoid colon, which leads to the rectum, and this is like the rectal vault. So you probably know you have the sensation that you have to poop, but it's not okay. So that means the rectal vault is probably at capacity. And then when you go to the bathroom, you release your anal sphincter, and the last part of the digestive process is accomplished. Okay. So as you can see, this is an incredible passage of food, and all along the way, nutrients and fluids and all kinds of things are being pulled out and passed through into the system of the body. Now we have our accessory organs. Ladies, just like shoes and a purse, which is very old-fashioned and basically, I don't know. Anyway, all right. So I didn't have a current relevant analogy to accessories, but the liver, the gallbladder, and the pancreas all process and pass along bile, and you can see how it's all connected, and the bile duct. The gallbladder is just like a little storage tank, okay? And you can follow that green line, and that goes right into the duodenum, and the bile aids digestion and processes of nutrients, okay? The liver, remember, is a big filter. And then we have the pancreas, and the pancreas does multiple different things, but the pancreas also provides fluids and processes of nutrients, okay? So as you can see, what we have here is a very complex way of changing that slice of pizza pulling the nutrients from all of the pieces parts, the cheese and the sauce and the crust, okay? And of course, you know, spices, and processing it through into a form that your body can actually process. And I don't care what anybody says, pizza has nutrients. Okay, and so do cheeseburgers. Just my opinion. Actually, it's fact. Okay. So again, the basic parts. Remember hepatic ducts? Those are ducts. Remember HEPA? HEPA refers to the liver. Okay. So there are words, as you know, that you just have to learn, like pancreas. You can't really take that apart. Stomach, you can't really take that apart. But when you connect that, so stomach, gastro, then you know when you see that those letters together, you know that it's referring to some part, some function of the stomach. Okay? And remember, learning these words are all about review, not memorizing. You cannot memorize this whole entire language unless who? Unless you are Sheldon Cooper from The Big Bang Theory, or unless you are Spencer Reed from Criminal Minds. Okay? And just for your notes, both of them are fictional characters. I mean, but there are people with eidetic memories. All right. So until you get your eidetic memory, review. Use your medical dictionary. Make sure that you are building up a word and its meaning that are accurate and correct. And query when necessary. Remember, I am in my email every day, 7 days a week. And this email, safiansc@cctech.edu, not Shelley Safian at mycctech.cctech.edu. No, that goes to the third ring of Saturn. Okay. I want to be here. I want to help you. I want to make sure that light bulb goes off over your head and that you understand, because this really is important to your career. And remember, no matter what, we all become patients one day, or the loved ones of a patient. And this is the language of healthcare. Okay, any questions? All righty then. Have an absolutely wonderful day, and practice your pronunciations, especially esophagogastroduodenoscopy. I'm kidding. Have a great day. Email me at this email if you need anything.